Here are 5 habits in no essential order from my 20s that I've left behind. Number 1 is chasing women, okay? Now, I'm not gonna be one of those people that sit here and pretend like that stage of my life was not fun, you feel me? And it helped me to build up character and overcome things like rejection, just because at the point in time where I was growing up, you actually had to shoot your shot in person. Nobody was using dating apps that heavy. Maybe they were just rolling out, but like it wasn't really a thing. And so through those moments in my 20s of chasing women, don't get me wrong, they were fun. But the reason why I had to leave it behind is just because as you start to get older, you got to recognize where your priorities lie. And chasing women and like spending your money to get their approval and things like that just isn't worth it in the longevity of your success. Especially once I realized once you become more successful, women chase after you. The guy in his 20s that I was didn't have anything figured out, right? So that was the only thing I was doing. Nowadays, even as I start talking to people and they start realizing what you got going for yourself, what you're building for yourself and different things like that, it makes you more attractive anyway. So now I don't even have to chase after women. Like it becomes so natural and cohesion through just a quick conversation where it's like, oh yeah, I would definitely be down to hang out with you. And so it's a different point of view that I have on it, on why I don't need that habit anymore. Number 2 is not taking action, okay? Let me tell y'all, in my 20s, I was a talker, but I was so good with my verbiage and articulation and how I could put a story together that not only would you be convinced, I would be convincing myself that I'm actually doing things that I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I'm really like, oh yeah, I do all those things, man, you're amazing. Was at home chilling after I was done my TED talk of the day. You feel me? It was, what do they call it? Mental orgasms. I was having those all the time. They had nothing to do with real life, but all the time like, oh yeah, you just, oh, you so amazing. Get out of here. I was full of shit. And so what I realized on why I had to leave that habit behind is because no one's coming to save you. Like if you don't make something happen for yourself, it is not gonna happen. And when I was in my 20s, I used to think, oh yeah, as you get older, things will just start to get better. Then I started to realize, hold up, I'm seeing people 40, 50, 60 years old who's still in the same situation or same mindset they was in their 20s. Why is that? Because they thought the same exact thing, that life was just gonna somehow change for them, and it never did. And so that is when I realized for myself, like, oh my God, I don't wanna be 40 thinking like I'm 20, still struggling to make ends meet, don't even have 6 months of my bills saved up, don't have any like potential future for a better opportunity for myself. No. And so that is why that talking ish, we don't do that. We think of something and we take action. And I'd say another big component of that is being willing to experiment with your ideas until you figure out what works for you. Because a lot of times your first idea isn't the one that's potentially going to change your life, but you do have to take action on it to be like, okay, I see how this would work for me. And now you can kind of decide what to move forward with for your own future. Number 3 is spending money that I don't have. You know what I mean? Like when I was in my 20s, one of the worst decisions I used to have is with those credit cards. I got me a $5,000 credit limit with $500 in my debit account. You know what I mean? And I see that minimum payment was like $15, $20. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely pay that back. And so I'm swipe. But then that interest start hitting those cards and now you find yourself, hold up, I spent $1,000, $2,000, but I'm spending $60 a month. And remember, I don't got $2,000 to pay it off. So now I'm just paying all this accrued interest on top of that, and you just never find yourself being able to get out the hole. And I just used the credit card example, but I was as bad as like, even if a bonus was coming in about 2 weeks and I knew what the bonus was gonna be, I've spent the bonus before it even arrived in my account. You know what I mean? And so you find yourself always living exactly at your limit and never finding a way to get ahead. And so I definitely had to leave that behind me because of the point of I wanted to be able to get my accounts and all my bills in a place where you could one day become financially abundant. You can't spend the money that you don't have in your account, and you can't continue to accumulate bills based on the money that you're making. Because I know a lot of times we could all believe that, oh, once I get to $1 million, once I get to 2 million, once I get to this, I know I'm going to be financially free because I'm looking at my circumstances right now. But even if you go outside of yourself and you look into other people's circumstances, right? How many rich people are now broke because they fell victim exactly to what I'm talking about? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you actually aren't keeping anything. Just really, really important lesson that I learned. And so, yeah, I had to stop spending the money that I didn't have. Number 4 is not investing in my future, okay? So in my 20s, I definitely struggled with delayed gratification. I needed everything here and now, and even any wins that I had was always short-term goals, and I always was just looking to get a win right away to make me feel like I was progressing my life, okay? At some point, I'm gonna use the gym for example, because I just don't want to make this about creating passive income for yourself. Like, even when it came to the gym, if I was working out really hard and then I got like injured, you know, tweaked the shoulder or something, as soon as I was out for like a week, I would instantly, when I got back, be like, okay, let's get right back to that weight. Let's get pushing back, right? Not realizing that this is only today. You got so much more time in your future, and that when you set a goal that is truly meant to change your life, it needs a life sentence on it, which means that the gym should just be a part of your life. So even if you're out for a week, then when you come back, you can just start getting back on track to whatever builds you back up, because you'll be doing this forever. And that was the shift from my 20s to my 30s that helped me understand compound interest, right? Where when I'm looking at things now, I'm like, okay, you can continually do this, but this is just working for money. How exactly do you build up passive income for yourself? And again, all your ideas aren't gonna work out right away, but I just finished my first ebook yesterday, and I had promised myself by the end of August I would complete it. Now, all my mind thinks about is, how can I create passive income for my actions? Like, I mean, it's content creation. Like, YouTube isn't paying me at the moment, but in the future, I will continually bring value to people's lives to be able to do that. And so now this will be another source of income to be able to continually build my future life up. And so now when I'm making decisions, it isn't about how can I get a win today? It's about how can I create longevity success for myself that continually compounds and increases as life goes. Number 5, and I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, especially once you start breaking down all the different layers, but it is fitting in, okay? So in my 20s, I definitely had a sense of self, felt like I was a strong person and everything, but when I reflect back on it, I did do some things that replicated a sheep's mentality, right? A herd mentality, where you're doing things that everybody else is doing. And it even became more prevalent when it comes to things like even conversations, right? Let's just say someone was having a conversation about race, right? But I decide I don't agree with what they're saying. They're clearly being disrespectful. It doesn't have to even be black and white. We can make it about any other race. And I decide to not say something because of the point that I know everyone will give me a side eye or give me a look like, oh, that's how you feel about it. That is like a simple example of recognizing when you're still doing things to fit in because you don't want to fall victim to the peer pressure, because you want everybody to like you. The reason why I had to let that go is because everybody's not meant to like you. And your unique and authentic self has to stand out above the sheep mentality. And now, this does ruffle a lot of feathers, especially people who want you to kind of sit under their thumb in life. But when you're different and you're just meant to break free and become this being that people look up to, this light that just warms the rooms you walk into, you can't be like everybody else, and you have to stand out and speak up and just do things that makes people be like, yo, this mother flipper's really different. You know what I mean? And so that is one of the things I truly embrace to this day, is making sure I'm always myself. Like, I was actually just talking with a friend earlier, and they were saying, I'm gonna tell you one thing, you super respectful, but you just don't bend to people's wills. Like, you know how you think and how you operate, how you do things. And I always say to people, like, yeah, I'm always gonna be respectful, but I'm also going to speak my mind on something to let you know where I stand, because I don't want it there ever to be some miscommunication or unmet expectations that are out there that I never agree with, you know? And so I would just definitely tell people, when it comes to fitting in, look at all the different layers. Not just, are you drinking because everybody's drinking? Are you speaking up on situations you don't agree with? When you are getting dressed, are you worried about whatever people think of you? It's like all these little things and components that you got to actually start breaking down to realize where you are. So if you made it to the end of this video, I truly appreciate you. definitely hit that like button. You already know it helps the algorithm for smaller creators like me at the moment. Comment your thoughts as well. Are there any habits that I shared just stood out to you? Are there any habits that you're planning on letting go because you see they aren't benefiting your life? I would love to hear about it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. I will see everybody at the top.